When the three casinos closed in 2014, it was the Revel, Trump Plaza, and the Showboat. I was working as a bartender at Trump Plaza, and I started there in 1986. So I'd been there for 28 years. And what I was doing when it closed is I was bartending. I was number 10 in seniority, but the positions have gotten so bad and the employees have been spread so thin. Even though I was number 10 in seniority, the only shift I could get was a 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. shift. But you did it because you had good benefits, and I always thought that the casino would either be bought or remain open because it had a premier location right there at the center of the boardwalk. It really looked terrible by the time it closed. For the last 4 or 5 years, they really weren't putting any money into it to fix it. You would walk down the when you walked from the parking garage, you had to dodge buckets that were from leaks. You had to make sure you didn't trip over the duct tape that was holding the carpets down, and even duct tape on the walls where there were holes in the walls. It was just, you wondered from what happened in 1986 when that place was a premier casino, one of the best in the world, to what happened in 2014. It generated a lot of money, so where did it all go? And it just left the casino employees and the vendors out in the cold. When the casinos were closing, I was a shop steward for Local 54, and we were putting together a bunch of people who wanted to put pressure on the casino managers to sell the places and to keep them open to save our jobs. So we would have meetings, not meetings, we would have meetings at the union, and then we would have marches we went into Bob Griffin's office once, and I was the leader. And we asked him why he won't come out and talk to us. He never even showed his face. It's like probably 100 of us marched through the casino, knocked on his door, were stopped by some security, and all we wanted to do was know what was happening with our livelihood and our futures. And we were basically stonewalled by people who really didn't give a damn about us. And all they cared about was the money. We thought we had a valiant fight. Being an optimist, like I said, I thought that the casino would stay open because of its location, but we just had greedy people who would not sell the mortgages so that the plaza would compete against their own property. When we found out that it was actually closing, because there were rumors for probably 3 or 4 years that we were going to close or be sold, because the condition of the building was just horrible. You could tell they weren't putting any money into it. They weren't hiring. We were given a letter, you have to be given a letter 60 days beforehand that a property that big is closing, and we just kind of looked at it and said we got to bite the bullet. We ramped up a fight a little bit with the union that didn't appear to work. I myself was worried, but my wife worked for the county. I have a very strong wife who worked for the county and makes a good living, and she would be able to continue our benefits. And I wasn't worried that much about myself because I had gone back to school in the 90s and gotten an accounting degree, worked as an accountant for a while, and knew I could probably find a job within a short period of time. I can't believe they would just take a building like that and let it close, and then the way it closed. They just, basically turned off the lights and walked away, because we went back to that property and looked in the windows, and it was the same thing as upstairs. There were still glasses on the bars downstairs. The restaurants were still set, and they even let one of the restaurants that was paying rent stay open. I have a college degree, so I know I'm qualified for stuff, and now that minimum wage is so high, it doesn't really matter what I do as long as I do it well, and I can do it full time. You want to let free enterprise reign and let the casino owners do what they want, but they have to have a responsibility towards their employees. They just, basically siphoned all the money out of Atlantic City. When Atlantic City was, they first approved gambling in 1976 for Atlantic City and let resorts open in 78. It was to give people jobs, good jobs here in Atlantic City. But as soon as the casinos hit a hiccup, they petitioned the government to let us reduce this number of jobs. Let us reduce jobs over here. Let us close down these games. They weren't bringing buses in anymore. The casinos really weren't making an effort to run their casinos. And you can see what Trump did. It was wrong, but it was legal. He just used other people's money, ran up the bills, and left town. And the other casinos have done that too because they also filed for bankruptcy. But that's a corporation, so they don't just have the one name like Trump to blame. It also might be Atlantic City's or the Atlantic City area's fault for relying on one industry. It's one industry was really running the county, and as soon as the 3 casinos closed, that took a big toll on the county. But what can you do besides? The government can't tell the company to stay open to keep the people employed. It's really a tricky thing what to do. They really shouldn't. They should have slowed the growth of it instead of letting it grow as fast as it can. But how can you stop people from, you can't make a law saying we can only have 4 casinos. But maybe you can, because you can make a law saying you can only have 4 liquor licenses. So they should have said you should, limit the number of casinos. If you didn't get in on it, you didn't get in on it, and it's too bad.